Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia. We've been running since 2016, lots of interviews with leading guitarists and guitar figures, and also the Iconic series where I am joined by my friends Gabor Jasika.
Hey Matt, hey Rob.
And Rob Rhodes.
Hey Matt, hey Gabor.
And we have a good time talking about stuff. We've done a bunch of iconic albums and we've done a bunch of other themed shows, which we're going to continue on with today. And Gabor, we're talking about signature gear. This was one of your ideas. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, the idea is basically, what is your favorite signature gear? So it could be pedals, it could be amps, it could be guitars, it could be anything. And also, do you own any of it, I guess, and you know whether you do or you don't, but it doesn't have to be ones that you own. It could be also, I've sort of made a subcategory for later down the track for really quirky signature gear that was released.
Nice.
And actually, I've got a little sort of like a sub question that I just wanted to ask before we even start. Mm-hmm. Like, do you ever buy gear? And that's whether it's signature gear or not, it doesn't have to be signature gear, but do you ever buy gear just because one of your favorite artists used it? Or have you ever bought gear just because, whether it's signature gear or not, but it's gear that's known that your favorite artist used it? Matt, start with you.
Whoa, I think my answer is no. I don't think I've bought gear because my favorite artist has got a signature piece of gear or just uses it. I've got gear that people I'm into use. Like I've got a Crybaby Wah, but everyone's got a Crybaby Wah.
True. No, but I mean any specific pedals. So, you know, like for example, I bought, one of the reasons why I bought a DS2 is because, you know, guys like Kurt Cobain used the DS2, John Frusciante, guitarists at the time that I really liked.
Yeah.
They use it, so I should get it to try it out.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I'm getting at. Is that, have you ever bought anything because you went, this guy sounds great using it, I'm going to try using that same pedal?
Sort of, kind of. It's more beside. I've got, you guys can't see much of it here, and no one on the podcast can hear it anyway. Oh, it's just banging on the wall.
Well, you can hear it banging on the wall now.
Yeah. Okay. That's my Joe Pass Epiphone jazz box. So,
cool.
I got this guitar because I was really getting into acid jazz. So not Joe Pass necessarily, although I loved his stuff. But I was really into Ronnie Jordan, the stuff he was doing in the early 90s. And he was sort of on the edge of that acid jazz movement, that's the word, movement in the UK in the early 90s. So I really wanted a hollow body to get that tone. So there was no such thing as a Ronnie Jordan signature model guitar, so I bought a Joe Pass.
He used a lot of different types of guitars too.
Yeah, he was like a semi guy, and live he played a Les Paul, but it sounded like a jazz box to me over hip hop beats. So sort of, kind of, yeah, more of a stylistic thing, I think.
I saw him flukishly. I mean, this is totally unrelated, but I saw him flukishly in New York when my wife and I went to New York.
No way.
We went into a bar randomly, and I had no idea who he was. Just went in there because we heard really cool music, and it was a cover. I don't know how much a cover charge was, but it wasn't that much. But he was playing there. This was in 2000, either 2002 or 2004. We went to New York both times. And literally just flukishly walked in. He played, I'm pretty sure he played was it a Benedetto? Is that like a jazz box.
He was playing those around that time. Yeah.
I think that's what he was playing. It was insane. And I think it was just him by himself, maybe, from memory, with like, he was using samplers and loopers and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
I think. It was great. Yeah, it was one of those absolute total flukes. Just walked past the place, kind of went, oh, that sounds cool. Walked in. And then it wasn't until later that I found out who he was and that he was sort of a, anyway. Sorry.
There you go.
Got sidetracked.
No, all good. I saw him in 93, 94 at the Metro in Sydney.
Okay.
And it was amazing. But yeah, for me, the style of guitar, I was obsessed with the tone and it was the stylistic thing. So
sort of very Benson-esque.
Yeah.
And so what about you, Matt? How many pedals have you bought because your influences have used them, or guitars or amps?
Well, unless I change my name, I'm Rob. But
what did I say?
You said Matt.
Matt? Oh, the other one.
The other Matt. The other Matt.
The other Matt. Matt number 2. Rob. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, I'm a total sucker for signature gear. I love it.
Cool.
I like it because they kind of do all the improvements and modifications on a standard pedal that you'd probably want to do yourself. So whether that's, they fix the output impedance on a particular pedal, or they put a mid-range control in there, or on a guitar they put a Floyd Rose that, on a standard Strat, or whatever the reason. Yeah. Amplifiers, same thing. They do all the mods that were done to their original Marshalls in the circuit or any of that. So yeah, I love signature stuff. I think it's cool. You know what you're going to get. I don't get it because I think it's going to make me sound like that artist. So that's not my motivation for it, because I do all my best to never sound like anybody. But I do it because I know exactly what I'm going to get when I get it, because that's that sound. So I'm a big fan of signature stuff, as we will discover through this chat.
Cool. Alrighty then. Okay. All right. Well, then, how about I'll start off then with my favorite signature gear that I own as well. So what I'm going through now is what I own. It doesn't have to be what you own, but I do own all this. And I'm going to start off with possibly the greatest signature pedal ever made in the history of the world.
Here we go.
There is no better pedal there in the world. And it is the Miku Stomp, of course.
I know you were going to say that.
So it's the signature pedal for a Japanese anime character who I believe is a 16-year-old girl. I think that's how old she's meant to be, called Hatsune Miku. And the pedal has a whole bunch of different phrases on it. If you never seen it before, go and check it. There's a lot of really, really funny. I think probably my good friend Henning Pauli from HP42 has probably done one of the funniest videos you'll ever see. He dressed up like her, had the same wig and everything. It's so funny. It's a few years old now, but watch it. If you haven't watched it, it is hilarious. Basically, you have all these different settings of different phrases she says. It can be, some of them are just sort of sounds, other ones are full phrases, or there's one that's like a scat one where she kind of just randomly picks things. But the cool thing is you can also get an app on your phone that you then connect, and you need to be able to speak Japanese, or you need to, there are videos that will show you what you need to do if you don't speak Japanese. But you can enter your own phrases into it, and then it will speak the phrases you've entered. It's just the greatest pedal ever, the most useless but greatest pedal ever. So I just thought, have any of you guys had any experience at all with the Miku Stomp?
Nope.
Negatory.
Oh, you're missing out, man. And it's another one of those pedals, and I mention that all the time. A lot of times when I play in cover bands, and you play the same songs week in, week out, 3 times a week, and you just want to kind of put a smile on the other guys in the band's, faces. You do whammy and Miku Stomp solo.
I do that by changing the words to songs all the time.
Well,
That's
you do
why-
that too.
yeah,
You do
yeah.
that too. I do a lot of that, and you especially put really you could put really obscene stuff in it and see if anyone reacts. That's what I do
Paying
anyway.
attention, yeah.
But yeah, so that's for me to start off with the Miku Stomp. If anyone out there hasn't seen it yet, go check out the videos, especially Henning's video is fantastic.
I knew of that pedal, but I never knew it was actually a signature from the anime show. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's this character, and she's like an anime, a virtual anime character, and I think she actually does full concerts where I think there's a live band on stage, and she's on a screen, and it's a particular Yamaha. It's a Yamaha voice thing that is used that creates it's synthesized voice. So it's not a real voice; it's a synthesized voice that's being used to create her singing voice.
Okay, and it's made by the pedals by Korg, isn't it?
The pedal is made by Korg, yeah.
Who work with Yamaha. There's a connection there, isn't there? Yeah.
But yeah, it's some Yamaha. I looked it up. I don't remember what it's exactly called, but there are 3 different versions of that voice thing, and they actually I think work together with Yamaha to create it. And so you have, as far as I know, you have a full live band on stage. And then you have the anime character who sings and performs as like a music person, anime person. I don't know. That's as much as I know. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting signature pedal. And it's a great signature pedal ever. So
There you go. Nice.
All right. Matt, what about you? The real Matt.
The real Matt. Okay. Well, the only other piece of signature gear I've ever owned was a Jerry Donahue preamp pedal made by Session.
Wow.
Cool.
And again, I didn't buy it because of Jerry Donahue. I didn't really know much about him. He was in the Helicasters.
Yeah.
So he's an amazing country player and has done a bunch of stuff. But back in when I got it, early 90s as well, I was just looking for a great overdrive pedal. And it was the best one in the shop. It had like an analog cab simulator, which I used a little bit, not much, but it was kind of a cool feature, especially back then. Had a boost. You had to turn on the boost with your finger, which was kind of stupid. So I eventually got it modded and got a second foot switch there, so I could turn the pedal on and off, could kick in the boost if I wanted it, and it's just a great sounding pedal. Had a 3-band EQ. So really versatile and sounded great. So yeah, not inspired by the artist, but was just a fantastic pedal.
He had a killer, actually. I think it was a PV signature telly at one stage, like T-style.
Yeah, he had a Fender first, and then PV ended up making one some years later.
I've never played a Fender, but the PV was a great guitar.
Yeah, wow.
Really, really good guitar.
Very cool.
Jerry Donahue. Well, there you go. And I didn't even think about it, but that was a great guitar too. Anyway, but Jerry Donahue. All right, the other Matt, Rob.
All right,
AKA Rob.
So I kind of approached this from, I guess it's like revolutionary signature equipment. Yeah. So
you can approach it whichever way you want. It doesn't have to, like I said, it doesn't have to be what you own.
So being the big Eddie fan that I am, just the overall signature of EVH on gear. So the one piece of gear I owned first was the 5150 212 60 watt combo. And that thing was
very, very heavy combo.
The fridge. Yeah, it was like lugging a fridge around. Just an amazing amp. Fantastic. Absolute backbreaker, but super versatile. Like it had quite a decent clean channel, like the clean we always talk about, that edge of breakup clean. Not super clean. Definitely not a Fender clean. But gain on tap for days. Like just so much. You could do anything. And at the time I had it, I was playing a lot of heavy rock, a lot of late 90s, early 2000s pop rock, and it just suited everything. And then I had an Axis Sport guitar as well at the time, which was the evolution of the Music Man EVH.
Yeah.
And but just from a signature standpoint, Eddie has always played the stuff that had his name on it. You know, he had the amps, he had the guitars.
He had the
Converse, you know, at the end.
The overalls.
Yeah. At the end, you know, like the MXR pedal range, which I've mentioned, I have 2 of those on my board. I have the Phase 90 and the Flanger. But down to his signature Celestians, the PV Wolfgang and now the EVH Wolfgang. I just think I'm not going to say he was the first because I'll sort of, for me, I'll talk later about what I thought the first signature kind of stuff was. But, for me, EVH, the quality's there. I've never had an issue with anything I've owned by that. And, you know what you're going to get. So EVH, for me, is stuff I've owned, stuff I love, and stuff I'll buy again. And I've got no endorsement or affiliation with Fender or EVH unless they want to.
Well, we're all open to these things. If anyone wants to be affiliated
Give me a call,
with us, please email Matt and let us know.
guitarspeakpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. The EVH stuff, I've all the stuff I've played, I always liked, always thought it was good. I actually just had for the first time I got a chance to try one of the new 5150 Iconic series. Yeah, one of the combos. The music shop here had it. Great
They
sounding
should
name.
sponsor us. We should get in on this. Absolutely. Iconic.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It only has one 12AX7, doesn't it? Is that the one? Because I think a lot of amps are going that way. Like the last Angle series, there's one 12AX7. Most of the overdrive is, circuitry.
Possibly. I don't know. I didn't look into that much, but they had one of the combos there, and I just thought I'd try it out. I was in between students, and I tried it out, and it sounded really, really good.
I'm going to correct myself just in case I am incorrect because I haven't seen them or played them. But
well, I know the Angle head I've got, which is one of the newer ones, which is the Iron Ball SE's got 2 or 3, I think, preamp.
Yeah.
So they've got more than the one. But I know there's a lot of that circuitry's going on. I mean, Dumble did a lot of that stuff where he had like almost pedal circuitry going into the preamp.
Yeah, the MI has that. No, the Iconic has 2 12AX7s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I really actually I haven't had a chance to try one, but I love the look of the new, I think they're called the 5150 guitars, the EVH 5150. There's the Wolfgang, which is the kind of little bit like the old Music Man kind of shape with the, again, bottle opener headstock.
Yeah, like the PV Wolfgang.
The PV.
Kind of like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then the ones that look like the old Kramer.
Yeah.
I do
the
like
Beretta,
the look of them.
is it the Beretta? The one that he was on?
Whatever
Yeah.
they are.
Yes, the pink.
The pink. All right. Well, I'll go to my second one, and I'll go to a different sort of weird looking guitar, and I'm going to the Ibanez Paul Gilbert Fireman.
Oh, I love that guitar. I was just looking at the purple one on Reverb last night, thinking, I'm going to sell my Firebird. Maybe that's the Fireman is a step up
from the bird to the man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just change the species.
Birdman.
Firebird Man. I had this down as well, Gabor, as one of my... I've got like a little trio of Ibanez guitars I think are cool, so the Fireman's one of them for sure.
Okay. Well, I've got... Because I have one of the first, the red ones, is it FRM10? I think it's maybe the FRM10. In red with the 3 single coils.
Nice.
It's just such a cool guitar.
Tortoiseshell pickguard.
Tortoiseshell pickup with red tortoiseshell pickup with the red sort of translucent body.
Yeah.
Really chunky neck. Jumbo frets. It's a cool guitar. I always say jokingly, it's my favorite Strat because it's got the three single coils. Nice. And he did the thing where he angled them the other way because he said, well, Jimi Hendrix had it that way. So
maybe that's the solution to my Strat problem right there. A fireman.
Fireman. Yeah. And it's just, I always loved the Iceman as well. That's sort of always one of my favorite shapes, and flipping it over. And I like Paul Gilbert. He's a cool dude.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Always interesting.
So this is another. We were talking about flipped reverse designs back when we were talking about the oddball Gibson
stuff.
Yeah. So this, are we giving it the reverse thumbs up? Because we said then some designs you just shouldn't reverse.
I give it a thumbs up. I think it looks good in both directions.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I can't tell if Rob's giving it a thumbs up or if it's
Rob,
a reverse.
sure.
What's the reverse thumbs up? Because that'd be a thumbs down. So you've got to go.
Yeah.
I thought he could have had a stroke then, but I wasn't quite sure.
You're my contortionist on Zoom.
Wow. So Rob, do you like it or not? I couldn't.
I love the fireman.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And I love the Iceman too.
Both look great. I think they're just, and he also flipped the headstock around, so it's not just the body; it's the whole everything, full flip.
Nice.
It's a killer guitar. I love it. So yeah, that's my second one. Matt, your second one.
Well, I'm going to talk about Strats. One thing's an observation, another thing's a new signature Strat, which I think is really cool. So,
okay,
an interesting thing when we're talking about Fender, and again we spoke about Gibson a couple of episodes ago. Really had that lull in the 70s and the 80s. Fender had the same kind of vibe. Eventually, CBS ownership was bought out by a bunch of people who essentially worked at the factory and were in management.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that turned Fender around, they started signature models. So the Clapton Strat and the Yngwie Malmsteen Strat.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't the only thing that turned things around, but that was one of the initiatives. And now, you shake a tree and 6 Fender Strat signature guitars fall out. And they're all probably great. They're all probably cool. So there's that. So in terms of Strat signatures, the Corey Wong Strat came out last year, 2021. And I've been on a bit of a Corey Wong kick for a while. So love the Wolfpack stuff. I've started listening to his podcast. He's a really good interviewer. Wong Notes.
Mate, his TV show over lockdown, his YouTube show is flawless. Like, unbelievable. Yes. So good.
Yeah.
Crazy good. If anyone's seen it, go check it out. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, man. He's hyperactive.
Yeah.
Obviously. He's always got so much on the go, but he's fantastic. He's amazing. So, as I intimated, there's a gazillion Strat signature models. To me, they're all very, very similar.
They are.
I mean, with whatever player quirks they've got, my Gosbull Strat, which is a couple of years old now, is just my couple little tweaks on the way I like a Strat. So I get it that people are doing and not messing with the recipe too much. But the thing I like about the Corey Wong Strat, it does push against the norm a little bit. So the body, in Corey Wong's own words, is 3 to 5% smaller than a normal Strat body. And I read that and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. But listening to his podcast the other day, he had Steve Vai on, and Steve Vai's a big fan. He was asking Corey Wong questions. So the body's smaller. Most people knew that. The headstock is actually 3 to 5% larger than the standard headstock. I did not know.
That's where the tone comes from.
That's where the tone comes from.
Oh.
Maybe it's where the funk comes from.
Let's start.
That's why bigger headstocks.
Comments coming in.
The late 60s, 70s headstock is the winner for me with Fenders. I love them.
You like the big ones,
big with the spaghetti logo. Yeah.
I love the spaghetti logo on a telly, or is it the block logo? Which one's the CBS logo?
Oh, so I think the one you're talking about is like on the Telly Deluxes, right? So it's kind of like a fatter black logo. Yeah. And then the 70s one kind of has, like, it's black, but then it's got the like the outline around the outside, like the spaghetti. Yeah, I like that.
So, interesting. So, so the Corey Wong Strat looks cool. It's got a compound radius neck, which I really like. I've got one on my warm-off neck. And it's got the push-pull pot just to lock the pickups into that fourth position.
Yeah.
Because that's all he wants for so much of his stuff. He's just got that shut down into that position.
It's interesting. The guitar it's sort of based on and that he played most of the time is a Highway 1, a blue.
Yeah.
We had exactly the same guitar in the shop at the music shop where I worked. For ages, no one wanted to buy it. And then the guy who owns the shop in the end bought it and self-reliced it.
Okay.
But it was actually a really good guitar. The first Highway 1s when it first came out, which were of the at the time the cheapest US made Strats.
Yeah. Yep.
There was sort of the bottom of the line with the matte finish and everything stripped down. And it was actually quite a nice guitar. But yeah, so he had that, and it's all like gaffer tape, the switch, so it stays in the one position.
Yeah.
Because he has that quite elaborate hand movement when he picks too.
His right hand is unbelievable.
I reckon he missed the opportunity to have an onboard compressor built into it.
Yeah.
Because that's his sound. Just like the Corey Wong button, dunk, and it turns a compression circuit on.
Didn't he just have a signature compressor come out? He had a distortion pedal and a compressor or something.
He's got an overdrive from, what was the company?
Jackson
Audio,
Jackson Audio,
which is like a tube screamer and
clone style thing. But if you hit both pedals, you get an EQ
in it as well. But didn't he also have wasn't there also a compressor? Hang on.
Wolfpack have a compressor plug-in that you can buy.
Oh yeah, they
from
do,
their
which
site.
is really good actually.
They've also got their own fonts you can buy.
Oh wow, cool.
Type letters and things. Right set list.
Yeah. Well, my number 2 is similar to yours, Matt. Very similar.
Yeah.
Because I went.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I went with the Eric Clapton Strat. Because I feel like even though Fender's sort of had a Hank Marvin tribute signature Squire back in the day when Japan first started making the Silver Series, I felt like the Clapton Strat was the birth of the signature model for Fender because he played it. It was everywhere. It was in every ad. It was about the lace sensor pickups, all of that sort of stuff. Yep. And then it blew up from there. And then Fender had this boom period with the SRV, the Robert Cray, the Buddy Guy, the Rory Gallagher, the Malmsteen, and Bonnie Raitt to a lesser extent. But my dream signature model was the Sambora Strat. Like it was
with the star inlays.
Star inlays, Floyd Rose, PAF Pro in the bridge, the 2 Texas specials, and you could get it in the Arctic White or the Cherry Burst. And like I played it at the AIM show when we used to have like Australia's version of NAMM at the convention centre at Darling Harbour. And I played one there and it was my dream to get it. But they were like $3,500 in the 90s, which, that was a lot of money. And there's one on Reverb at the moment. The guy wants 11.5. I'm not saying it's not worth that. I'm just saying I wouldn't pay that. But that's what they're going for. So, that was my kind of dream. And that's sort of my second iconic signature gear was the Fender signature thing, which is, the same as you, Matt.
Yeah. It was
a friend of mine has one, and he played in a band that we played. My band and his band played together a lot back. This is back in the 90s and early 2000s, and he loves it. That's his baby. That's been his baby for a long time, and I've played it a few times. They're good guitars. But yeah, the star inlays.
Star inlays, come on.
Yeah, they were cool, and I love the Kramer, New Jersey, which was before you had the Fender thing going on too. They were cool.
I'm one of those, I don't like pointy headstocks. Sorry. That's a Kramer. I love the Kramer, the 3 pickups.
The hockey stick.
The pointy headstock on that guitar.
I've never been into the pointy thing either. Oh.
I'm on board. I'm on board with the pointy.
If we're talking Fender and if we're talking Fender signature guitars, one of my favorite Fender signature guitars, and the guitar that got me into the type of guitars that I probably like the most now, is the Elvis Costello Jazzmaster. So that was my first Jazzmaster. So that's another one that I put on the list. it really got me into Jazzmasters. It was the first one I bought, and it started this sort of stupidity I have now with Jazzmasters, where everything is Jazzmaster shaped. But it was at the time for me. So I think Fender only sort of slowly started reissuing Jazzmasters and Jaguars because they were quite out of favor for quite a long time. But at the time, you could really only get them in either sunbursts or maybe like white or black, those kinds of colors, like solid colors. And I just remember when I saw the Elvis Costello Jazzmaster in that sort of translucent kind of, it's meant to be a walnut stain. It's an ash body, but with a walnut stain. Is it ash or is it may not be ash. I don't know, whatever wood it is, with a walnut stain on it. And I just thought it looked so good. And I was looking for ages because they only made them for about a year. It was like a fairly limited thing. And I found one secondhand here on the Sunshine Coast, and I went and checked it out. And even my wife said, "Oh, that looks good. You should get that." Which was probably one of the only times ever my wife said, "You should just get it. It's really nice." So that's okay. Now, Jazzmasters.
Yeah.
Not talking signatures, not talking anything. How much experience have you guys had with playing Jazzmasters, if any?
0 for me. No experience.
Oh, you're missing out, man. That's why you're playing that Gibson stuff.
Very limited for mine. I mean, I've got the Pat Keegan Telemasters, but they're essentially tellies in the body of a sort of an offset. Mark Osborne, though, my other friend who builds guitars, who built my Strat Style, he's right into them. So he's built some amazing ones, and he's got the Johnny Marr one.
Oh, that's a cool guitar. That's someone. That's so what I would love to get my hands on.
So.
I think I'm totally with Rob there. I think Fender has really, I mean, they've gone maybe almost a little bit too far recently, but they've really, the whole signature thing that's sort of become something. They've made it what it is now, I think, Fender. They've really introduced the world to this idea of signature guitars and signature instruments, and better than anyone else. And anyway, for me, the Elvis Costello, it sort of started me on this journey of everything now has to be Jazzmaster shaped that I get and make. And,
that's great.
Yeah. All right, Matt, back to you. Next one.
Is that me, the real Matt?
Yes, the real Matt.
Okay, good. Cool. I've got a couple of Ibanez guitars. I had the Fireman in there, which we talked about. I'm going to say the Ibanez, the Steve Vai Gem. An iconic shredder, man.
I mean, as iconic as it gets, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember when these came out, and the Ibanez RG came out around the same time. I don't know which influenced which, but I remember going to Venue Music at Parramatta and just looking at the RGs on the wall and thinking that is the coolest looking guitar ever.
Yeah.
I don't think that anymore. Like my tastes have changed a bit, but I just thought they looked amazing. So futuristic and edgy, and no pun intended on the tremolo system. But yeah, I thought also I ended up owning an 80s RG for a while, and it sounded amazing, but I hated playing it because it had those super thin wide
wizard
necks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like a thick, wide neck. It was halfway there. Bon Jovi. So,
podcast
but
with two Bon Jovi.
Wow.
Man. We're on a winner here. This one's, it's going to...
We just need to be done with it. Slippery When Wet, iconic album. We're just going to have to... Yeah, but the Steve Vai, man, it was amazing. Because Steve Vai, at the time, it came out in 87. He had a couple of independently released, or maybe on Relativity. He had the flexible albums, but really, he was really just known as a sideman. Well, not just, but, he played with Zappa. And obviously the David Lee Roth thing was blowing up at that stage.
And Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, yeah. Replaced Yngwie. But really, to get a solo, an artist guitar then is pretty amazing. So just the fluoro colors, the floral green stuff, the
handlebar. I mean, the monkey bar
grip.
Would look good. Monkey grip.
Like today, I don't know how cool that is, but in 1987, nothing was cooler than that monkey grip.
Yeah. And the vine inlay too.
The vine inlay, yeah, all that stuff. So it was pretty cool. And again, Ibanez went bonkers with the promotion and saturated.
Saturated
Guitar magazine. Saturated.
Hey,
The puns. The saturator is the Vox signature pedal, of course.
Yes.
saturated.
Wasn't
yes,
on
yes.
my list, but I just threw it in there. So yeah, Steve Vai I thought was amazing. And the George Benson, the GB30, which was the smaller body one. They built a larger body one later in his career, but they started building those in '85. So
Wow.
I guess Ibanez too. That under the radar, there were a few Ibanez signature models, but
Steve Miller.
it didn't seem to explode. Yeah, Steve Miller.
Well, he had an
Lukather.
Iceman too. That was
He had an Iceman and an
Iceman
artist
shape.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, I used to have a GB10. I had a GB10.
Oh, really?
George Benson, yeah, for a long time, and then sadly, I needed to pay some bills and stuff, and I just didn't use it enough, and I thought, I'd rather have someone play it who actually knows how to play it.
Sure. And was that the big hollow body one?
No, the GB10 was a small one. That was the
small one as well. Okay.
Quite a small body. That's sort of his main one, the GB10.
Maybe I've got the number wrong then.
I think the 30 was the bigger body one, actually.
Okay. Well, it's a bigger number, so that makes sense.
And I used to go as far as buying the Tomastic George Benson signature strings.
There you go.
The only thing I found, and I don't know why this happened or not, but you buy his signature strings in his signature gauge, which was 13 to 56, 58, like quite heavy flat wound strings, right? And so there were two sizes. There were 13s and 14s, right, that you could buy, the two gauges
14.
in flat wounds. And neither of them, the low E, would fit into the tailpiece on the guitar. You had to actually I don't know if you've used Tomastic strings much in the past, any of you guys, but they have this kind of it's like a fabricy kind of wrap around
bass strings.
Like bass, like a lot of bass strings. And I had to cut the fabric off around where the ball end is on the string to be able to fit it into the tailpiece. So his signature series guitar, I couldn't put the signature series strings in it because the little slot on a tailpiece wasn't big enough. Just throwing it out there, Ibanez. Maybe you should do something about that.
All right. There you go. A couple of Ibanez guitars I thought were kind of cool.
They make tons of cool stuff, Ibanez.
Yeah.
There was the Omar Rodriguez Lopez signature they did as well, which is a kind of offsetty kind of looking one with a one pickup.
Yeah. What was that guitar called that it was based on? Was it the Jet King?
Jet King, yeah. It came from the Jet King. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I like those. They look cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the GB10 is the smaller body one.
Okay.
And then the GB30 was the bigger one.
Okay. I'm thinking, I'm going for the small one.
And then they even did the one that was all gold-plated, that gold leaf-plated one for his special anniversary one.
Fancy.
Well, you know who loves a gem? Friend of the show, Mr. Peter Northcote. Who,
Yeah.
He flies the flag proudly and greatly for that guitar.
He's got one of the old ones too with the PAF Pros. So
Yeah.
another shout out to our favourite Damasio.
PAF Pros.
Pro.
Well, should we quickly do some of the audience questions?
Yeah.
Or listeners' questions, or whatever you want to call them, and then have a short break.
Sounds good. All right, here we go. Grant Rennie wants to know what was our first musical memory? Good question.
Rob.
Mine is probably spinning vinyl records with my dad and playing air guitar on a squash racket.
Nice.
For the kids out there, squash is a game you play in a little court with a tiny little racket and a tiny little ball, like a hard rubber ball. Squash doesn't really exist anymore.
It's a shame.
I know. It's a good very
game.
good game.
Very popular back in the day.
Yeah, it was huge. My first live music memory is probably of at my local pub the old soloists and duos that used to come in and play on Thursday night, of which one was Mr. Terry Murray. Now, Terry Murray is a fantastic guitar player and from the band The Far Gone Beauties. And he was also the musical director for Doug Mulray's show on Triple M. And they're the things. And there was another duo, which I can't remember who it was, but there was a guy that looked like Andre the Giant who played guitar. And his duo partner was in a wheelchair. And he sung and played harmonica, and they were amazing. But the thing that I took away from that was, and Terry Murray as well, was how they would change the lyrics to all the songs. Okay. And like to something dirty or something funny or just, and I've taken that with me. It's something I've kept and used myself, but that's where I was first exposed to it. From those two guys. It shows
you if people pay attention to what you're saying.
Yeah. And back then, everyone used to pay attention. But it also taught you that you only have to change one or two words to make it funny or to get attention. If you try to change a whole line, and I was having this conversation with my keyboard player, Justin, the other day, if you try and get smart and sing a whole phrase or a whole verse, different words, no one will pick up on it. It's just the one or two little bombs you drop that that are so effective. But they're my earliest musical memories.
Nice. Gabor?
Me? Okay. Well, I grew up in a household where my parents never really listened to music. The only time we ever really listened to music, if at all, was in the car, if we went somewhere. And I remember they had one or two cassette tapes back in those days in the car that they always played. One was ABBA. I don't remember which ABBA album, but it was ABBA. And the other one was an album that had sort of disco versions of classical songs.
It was Hooked on Classics.
Early 80s.
Was it Hooked on Classics?
Sorry?
That was massive
Maybe
at the time.
What it was.
Yeah.
I remember the cover had I think it had
treble clef?
Neon kind of looking writing on it.
Yeah, and I think it was a neon treble clef or something.
Maybe it was even that. Yeah, maybe it was even that. When we listened to that in the car, that's my earliest memory. Live music was the first concert I ever went to was, I think I talked about it once before, was Falco in Vienna on the Danube Island, or Donauinsel as it's called over there.
That's awesome.
Which was on June 27, 1993. And you can watch that show on YouTube, and lightning hits the stage and all the power goes off.
Wow.
And it's bucketing down, raining. And I just looked it up, 150,000 people in the audience.
Wow.
Big concert. So that's my first live concert.
That's amazing. What was the big Falco hit?
Rock Me Amadeus.
Oh, Amadeus.
He was the Austrian guy. The Austrian guy who had big hits all around the world. That
very
Rock Me
cool.
Amadeus.
Very cool.
What about you, Matt?
Two. Both involved my mother actually. So the first one, I was 3 or 4. I was in hospital for an extended period. I was having a kidney removed, which worked out okay. Because I had a spare one, so that was fine. Yeah. But I can't donate a kidney now, obviously, to buy a Paul Reed Smith. That's the only problem. Oh. So my mother used to come in, every day. This was before Ronald McDonald House. Parents couldn't stay at the hospital, that sort of thing. But she came in, and we were building a musical instrument using a cornflakes box and a long paper roll thing, some elastic bands. And the nurse came in and said, "Are you making a banjo?" I said, "No, I'm making a guitar." And so that was that. That was a nice little moment. I didn't know why it was a guitar. It wasn't really a guitar. Even though it wasn't a banjo. And then the other musical memory is got ABBA, similar to you, Gabor. So in 1976, ABBA Arrival came out. That's the cool album where they're sitting in the helicopter on the cover.
Helicopter, yeah.
Yeah, man. So my big brother got that on vinyl for Christmas. So I remember sitting and pulling out the lyrics, and I must have been 5 or 6 then. And singing along with me and my mum singing the ABBA songs. It was good times.
You know what? I think that was the album my parents had in the car too, the ABBA, but on cassette.
A lot of people had that record.
Arrival,
man.
yeah.
Great record.
And back to you.
So there you go.
Back to you building that guitar out of cardboard. Didn't we talk about that on our episode of the Guitar Speak podcast? Is putting on the Ritz. Like,
Putting on the Ritz.
Who did the same thing? Like made guitars out of cardboard. Yeah.
Yeah. That's classic. There you go. Good times. Cool. Good question. Thanks, Grant Rennie. I know Grant Rennie, actually. I taught him guitar for many, many years, so it was nice to see him in cyberspace and ask that question. If anyone's got a listener question, please send them in, guitarspeakpodcast@gmail.com, or find us on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. All right. So, Gabor, did you want to take a break and we'll come back?
Let's take a break and then talk more favorite signature gear.
Cool. This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott, ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and the McNally Smith College of Music. I was one of the beta testers for the course and can say as a music educator, I was really impressed by the logical sequence of learning. The course has also been endorsed by players such as Brett Garsed and Greg Cupp. For more details, check out the links in our show notes. All right, welcome back. We are talking signature gear, cool stuff, quirky stuff, whatever. Gabor's brought this topic to us and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Yes.
You, Gabor.
All right, so favorite signature gear. So I think we were up to Matt before. Not Matt, the other Matt, Rob. It's getting late. I'm old and tired. So Rob, the other Matt.
Yeah, so mine is...
what's next on your list?
Yeah, mine's, again, similar to EVH, but it's not as... The artist was never involved in any of the development of this stuff, obviously, but the Jimi Hendrix, range of...
Oh, yeah.
Signature. So...
Jim Dunlop stuff.
Yeah, but it started... I think Jim Dunlop was making them, but they were all branded Jimi Hendrix. So that very first lot, there was the Thomas Organ Jimi Hendrix wah, but then there were the little pedals, like the MXR style ones that were branded Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from memory, there was the Octafuzz, and there was a Univibe, I think, and then there was a Fuzz wah and a Jimi Hendrix branded, like the Landmine Fuzz Face. And it was black, like matte black. And then over the years, we saw, the JH1 got revisited in the Vox style cabinet, and then all the Jimi Hendrix MXR pedals got reissued, and then the Mini series came out, and then the god-awful Digitech Jimi Hendrix Experience won the multi-effects thing.
Yeah. But it came in a really nice purple
bag, crushed velvet
it had all the sounds in it, man.
It had all of them in there, yeah,
all of them.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think his influence on guitar and then on what happened subsequent to his death has had a huge impact. From Fender doing Jimi Hendrix signature models and Gibson doing a Hendrix signature Flying V, and all of that. They're some of my favorite signature models to kind of look at, and they're good for what they do to get that particular sound, and they're affordable too, which people, you want to get into prescription electronics, the Experience, Octafuzz, and all of that. They were really starting to get up there in price. And the Chicago Iron, the Tycho Brahe stuff, and all of that's really expensive to get. But these give you, if you're into Hendrix, you can get into it and get those sounds with good quality, affordable pedals. So yeah, the Hendrix range is one of my favorites, and I've owned a lot of them over the years, and they deliver on what they promise. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, I'm going to change it up ever so slightly now because, we're getting on with time here. So
sure.
Some quirky stuff. I mean, you guys can just do, you don't have to do quirky stuff, but there's a couple of quirky signature things that I looked at. Probably one of the quirkiest of all would have to be the PV Wiggy amp.
Yes.
Now, the Wiggy was done in collaboration with Dweezil Zappa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember it.
And it's just a cool... I've been looking for one for such a long time. They're so hard to find, in Australia anyway. But
wasn't there one on eBay maybe a year or so ago? I think I remember you and Alex talking about it.
Maybe we're talking about it, but maybe it was ridiculously priced as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right,
But
right.
So the idea behind the PV Wiggy was... So, okay, not looking aesthetically now. We'll get to the aesthetics in a second. Okay. So there was apparently a transistor amp. There was either a bass amp or an acoustic guitar amp that Frank used to use in the studio very often in conjunction with either his Marshalls or his Carvin amps. To have that, it was a transistor amp that he used sort of together with the valve amps. Dweezil found that amp and liked the idea of it and wanted to kind of reproduce it to a certain degree. So he went to PV and they looked at the time, PV had their Trans-Tube series, which is the sort of, I think it's the kind of thing where it was a transistor preamp, but you had actual tube power amp.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Sort of one of those hybrid amps, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was based on that trans-tube technology, but with special modifications that Dweezil did. And what he was saying, one of the things that with that amp that Frank was using, it had a really unique overdrive sound when you cranked it. But the thing that he really liked about it is that when you had the overdrive going, it was super pick dynamic and super responsive to the volume control on the guitar, where you turn the volume down on the guitar and it would have this really thick, rich, warm, clean sound all of a sudden, instead of the kind of almost fuzzy overdrive. And using that in conjunction with a tube amp, he said it sort of brought out some really interesting sounds. So that was the idea behind it, right? So he developed it with PV, and it was basically this sort of transistor amp that had really disgusting sounding fuzzy. There was also a compressor and a fuzz circuit after the power amp section in it. And it had lots of controls. Wow. It had lots of controls. And he said a lot of people don't quite get it because they don't have a foot switch, because you can't change channels without the foot switch. And if you just turn it on without the foot switch, it's stuck on the lead channel, which just sounds like a really fuzzy, disgusting thing, and you can't do anything else with it. So you need the foot switch. Now, aesthetically, for whatever reason, he went to, apparently, there was an old Aston Martin GT car that was hanging around where Frank lived, where he lived, around his house. Which was a blue Aston Martin. So apparently it's reminiscent of an Aston Martin dashboard. Yeah. Now, none of the controls say what they do.
Awesome.
So you've got one that is a speedometer. One is your revs. Then you have sliders, and all the sliders says more and less. It doesn't tell you what they are.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
More is better.
More is better. You have like an oil gauge. You have, and none of them actually say what they actually do. Wow. And the actual gauges, so you turn it, and it's sort of like a needle turns and moves.
Oh, that's so funny.
Which also a lot of people look at it and just go, "What the hell is going on?" It also has hazard lights. Because you need hazard lights. And it's all backlit as well. So it's like backlit like you would have in a dashboard. I just think it's super cool, to do something like that, and for PV to go, yeah, sure, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah, PV get bagged out a bit, but they've come up with a lot of cool stuff.
They did some really cool stuff, and I mean, a lot of the guitars back in the days when they were made in the US, they were really good guitars.
Yeah, you talked about the Jerry Donahue one, but the Steve Cropper guitar was really good too. Oh, and Nathan Cavalieri had a signature PV in his, heyday, in his early, let's say early day.
In his heyday.
Yeah. That's right.
So,
Boom,
boom. Boom, boom. While we're doing bad puns.
That's funny.
So anyway, so the PV Wiggy, that was one I just thought would be interesting to kind of bring up. And I think, a lot of people just look at it as what's this weird transistor amp, but you're meant to use it in conjunction with a tube amp. And it gives you interesting sounds. So that's a quirky one. All right, back to you, Matt, the real Matt.
Okay, is that me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just a
The
doormat.
Wiggy. The Wiggy looks awesome too, by the way.
It's such a
And
cool
with
looking
its
M, isn't it?
matching cab. It looks
Matching
amazing.
cabinet, 2x12 cab.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I've actually played an amp with where you don't know what the dials do, and I can just say it's not as fun as it sounds.
No.
And especially because that one, it has a lot of dials as well. Because you have a normal EQ, then you have the sliders are like a post EQ, kind of like on a Mesa Boogie style thing.
Okay, yeah.
But you have you have a compressor on it. You have different input gain circuits. You have you've got a high octane and low octane input, which is your high impedance, low impedance input. You've got and you've got a fuzz circuit and stuff afterwards. So there's lots of stuff on it, and none of it says what it is. So it's great. I think that's fantastic.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome. And Dweezil's super cool. He doesn't.
If anyone hasn't watched the video he did with Gibson, where they go through with Mark Agnesi, where they go at his studio and they go through all his guitars, there's so much cool stuff there.
All right. Well, I was gonna just say I'm gonna drop my last one off that I had and talk about weird, quirky amps, and I'm gonna throw the Randall Nuno Betancourt, the NB King, for a weird, quirky looking signature model. I owned one, and it was killer, but it was such a weird kind of left of field. It had a VU meter in it, and it had a great look, but it was super quirky. But typical of Nuno, it just looked. It's one of the coolest looking amps ever, but it's super weird.
And with the matching cabinet with it, they looked really good together.
The split down the middle and his little tattoo symbol on it.
Oh, wow. I'm looking it up now. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's a cool looking amp.
And it was designed by Peter King, who's Australian. He's a Perth guy. And, it was a killer, quirky signature model, which, is on brand for Nuno, because the N4 is a little bit out there from the norm at the time, and now he's got the Nelly, which is like his signature Telecaster.
Yeah. With that same neck joint.
Yeah, the Stevens extended cutaway.
Yeah.
But that's a really cool, quirky signature amp as well.
That's unreal. Rob, you've got is it an N4, the guitar?
Well, yeah, technically it is. So the Washburn factory went under before I think Cayman bought them, and and a local music store bought all the parts from the Washburn custom shop, and they're called Funky Monkey Music. I don't know if they're still around, but I think they're in Arkansas, and they were just making made-to-order N4s out of all of the parts. So you just you just got the body, and you could select, because they were just making the neck profile however you wanted, and they put the whatever fretboard material you wanted. So if you wanted a maple fretboard, you could have it. If you wanted a rosewood, ebony. But I got this dark chocolate rosewood, which looks awesome. And so for under $1,000 delivered, because we were on basically par with the American dollar at the time, I got an N4.
Those were the days.
Yeah. And it's got Grovers on it. It's got the Floyd Rose that's on the N4. And I fitted it with two PAF Pros with the push-pull pot that came on the N2. Nice. So it's kind of like a hybrid, but it has a Stevens cutaway, and it's just finished, oil finished. I just said leave it.
Okay.
So I think they put like a really crappy, hopeless clear coat over the top, which you can see in certain places, but it's so super thin. But yeah, that's Yeah, I've had the Nuno amp and the Nuno guitar. I had an N2 when I was a kid. It was probably maybe the fourth guitar I bought when I was learning. But yeah, Nuno's had some interesting signature stuff over the years.
He had that kind of sort of Les Pauly kind of...
The Washburn P4.
P4, was it? Yeah. I remember that one. Oh, but that's...
it was in his Mourning Widows...
Schizophonic album when that came out, that those guitars came out?
Yeah, Schizophonic and then Mourning Widows. He played them a lot. And he was using the Sparkle one with Rihanna up until, his last tour with her. So, yeah. Yeah. Strange. What about the Buckethead signature Gibson Les Paul? Yeah. That could have fit in the last episode, actually, the Gibson one, the quirky
Gibson Oddities, with the kill switch on it,
Yeah.
Did you have anything else in your list, Matt, or the real Matt?
Me? Is that me?
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I was going to say, it is a bit of a quirky one too. I know all three of us are into made in Japan guitars, so
yeah.
I've got a Fernandez. I know you guys got a bunch of things. When I was researching this model, because I was buying it from a Japanese auction site, I was digging through all the old Fernandez catalogs, and what I noticed is even up until definitely in the 80s and maybe into the early 90s, they had these kind of unauthorized signature models. So they would have like a Randy Rhoads style guitar. It looked like the Jackson Randy Rhoads with the offset V, and they would call it a Randy Rhoads, or they'd call it an RR, and they'd have even there was a Paul McCartney model, which was like just a copy of a what was it, like a Rickenbacker, like the bass he was playing in Wings.
Okay.
And there were some artists affiliated, like Brad Gillis from Night Ranger, but there was other guys like Jake E. Lee from Ozzy Osbourne's band. He never played a Fernandez, he played Charvel's. But there was it looked exactly like the Charvel. It was called the Jake E. Lee model. So amazing. Like, you couldn't do that now, of course.
I think Greco did that too, didn't they? Because Greco did the Framptons and the John Sykes and Ace Frehley's.
That's right.
It wasn't that long ago. Edwards, which is one of the brands made by ESP.
One of the ESP,
which is only meant for the Japanese market.
Yeah.
You could buy a Stevie Ray Vaughan style Strat with all the aging.
Yeah.
They had a John Frusciante Strat. They had a Clapton. I had a Jimmy Page Les Paul Edwards at one stage.
Right.
Did that have all the mini toggles under the pickguard? Because they had two models, didn't they? Didn't they do one with all the mini toggles?
Yeah, mine just had the push-pull.
Yeah, okay. That's right. They did it with that.
Pots.
Yeah, sorry.
But it was aged. It had the same. It had the what was it, Seymour Duncan, whatever, in the bridge, and like what you would get. And it was a great guitar. It was a really, really good guitar. So, and that was 10 years ago. That wasn't that long ago.
I think you could still get them. I think they're still making them. Edwards.
Yeah.
So Edwards, which is ESP, but only for it's meant to only be for the Japanese market.
Yeah. So, crazy times. So, people get cranky at Gibson whenever they want to sue some guitar companies, but in some of these instances.
Well, look, their signature model is based on a fake Gibson, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, correct. Correct. It's hilarious. I guess, of course, there's the original signature, the original gangster, which is the Les Paul.
Yeah, true.
Which is kind of weird. You got like a gazillion signature models based on someone else's signature
sub-signatures,
model.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what Fernandez were doing as well. So why not?
Yeah, true. All right, I've got one last thing that I wanna as a quirky signature guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Music Man Mr. Horsepower. Do you guys know the Music Man Mr. Horsepower?
Yeah.
So it's the Nigel Tufnell signature guitar.
Yeah, beautiful.
25 ever made.
Fantastic.
25 ever made. 4 humbuckers.
Yeah.
Don't you just want to plug it into the Wiggy amp?
Well, that into the Wiggy amp, that would be the best thing ever, yeah. So four humbuckers, and as you select them, I think it's backlit. The one that you select is backlit.
Perfect.
You have a tachometer which responds to your playing. It has a Floyd Rose with an 8-ball on the end.
That is the best.
And the coolest thing, the fretboard, and it's facing up, so it's facing you. Instead of inlays, it has the names. It's the first fret says F, the third fret says G, A, B. So it's got whatever the lowest note is a fret inlay. It's facing up towards the player.
Oh, I need that.
Which is just cool.
Yeah.
And it's got exhausts, so, 4 exhaust pipes, one for each pickup.
Oh, that's great.
And flames. So of course,
Of course,
it
you
has,
have to have flames. Yeah.
it's a flame.
It looks great. It looks so good.
Oh, yeah.
So they only ever made 25 of those.
Wow.
That went for about $5,000 each at NAMM.
But you can buy an Albert Lee and make your own one.
Yeah, it's based on the Albert Lee. So the body shape is the Albert Lee. But it's just, so what is it? Each of the 4 pickups has its own toggle switch with working drag strip lights that illuminate when the pickups are on. That's so cool. Each of them are personally signed by Nigel. It's a Music Man Albert Lee body style. The stainless steel exhausts and hot fuel-proofed rubber pickup switches. The shifter trem arm, specially designed Roadrunner logo on the headstock. Custom, all super custom, truly one of a kind. It's a cool guitar. Go and check, look at photos of it if you haven't seen it before. But and there is some live footage of him using one of them too.
Yeah.
But it's just cool, and it's Nigel Tufnell and it's Spinal Tap, so
cool.
It doesn't get any cooler than that.
All right, so I reckon before we wrap this up and we do the last viewer question, how about a question without notice? If you put a signature rig together, so one signature guitar into one signature pedal, it could be the Clapton Crossroads pedal, and into one signature amp, what would it be? Go Gabor.
Well, I think we just answered that question, didn't we? So it would be the Mr. Horsepower
into the Miku Stomp
through the Digitech Lyra into the PV Wiggy.
All right. How about you, Matt?
Oh, I've got nothing to add on. Can't top that. No, I'll get a Fernandes Paul McCartney bass and I'll run it into a. I don't know. No, I got nothing. That's great. I'll just borrow Gabor's rig.
Borrow Gabor's rig. You could do a timeshare.
Yeah,
I reckon that would be the coolest rig. The Mr. Horsepower into the Wiggy. That's just, you don't need anything else.
I reckon if you tried to get every John Bonamassa signature pedal ever,
God,
surely that'd be quite a signal chain.
Yeah, absolutely.
For someone who thinks people who use pedals should practice more, he has a lot of signature pedals.
All right, well, I'm going to go the Sambora Strat. And here's one from left field. I'm going to go into the Richie Kotzen signature Zoom multi-effects pedal.
Oh, yeah.
Which, come on, you can't find them. I keep trying to find one. Can't find it. Have you got one of those?
There's a John 5 did one too. No, I don't have one of them. No, I'm looking. There are two I would like to get: the John 5 one and the Richard Kotzen. Yeah.
And then I'm going to go into the Steve Lukather signature Rivera Knucklehead with the sub cabinet.
The subs, yes.
The sub cabinet. That's what
the Los Lobotomus. I think it's called. So that's my dream signature rig right there.
Oh, that's great. Didn't the Korn guys use those?
Yeah.
They use those. And the bass player wondered what he was doing still in the band.
I've had a few bass players like that. I've wondered why they're still in the band too.
He does a clicky. He just makes clicky sounds.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, there for the click. Okay,
just for the clicks.
All right, what's that last viewer question, Matt?
Yeah. Okay, so
for people at home, it's midnight right now when I'm recording this. So,
and daylight savings just ended, so I think is it sort of 1:15? I don't know. Anyway, this is from Joe Salas. Great great guy from Victoria. I think Joe is from. But Joe's great. Joe asks, do different guitars evoke different performances and emotions, or is it just in the fingers? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you guys play a lot of different guitars, so I think you two are especially good to answer this one.
I have a little story about that too. So
Yep.
I teach guitar, and a few years back, one of my students almost kind of interned with me. He kind of worked with me, and he helped me out, and he was sort of sitting in with a lot of lessons and helped out with a lot of lessons, and sort of worked with me. And I just bought my oh god, everything's falling now. You can just kind of see it there. My 1964 Gibson Melody Maker.
Wow,
nice. And I brought it into lessons to play it. And he's always sitting there with me, right? And I used to always use the same Carvin guitar for all my lessons back in those days. And I started playing it, and he looked at me like, and at the end of the day, after all the lessons, he said, "You really played guitar completely different to the way you usually play guitar." And it because of that guitar, just because, and I do wholeheartedly agree with that. And especially vintage guitars, I think they have a vibe and they have a thing to them that they will make you play differently to the way you usually play. And I do think different guitars, but particularly vintage guitars, do make you play very differently.
Yeah, good one.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I wrote down a few things. So, yeah, different guitars definitely make you play differently. And I think they evoke unique performances, like what Gabor's just said. Although I agree tone comes from the fingers, so there's going to be a certain character that will run through that. But I know if I play my Esquire, I play that very differently to how I play the Flying V. But then again, those guitars are used in different contexts, different songs, so you are playing like slightly different anyway. But it is going to inform your approach to playing. The other thing that influences it is like vibrato tremolo systems. So like when I use a Bigsby, it sounds completely different to when I use a Floyd Rose or a Fender style bar. Sure. And then that's going to be completely different if you use a stop tail or a hardtail. Your vibrato is different. Like I might more use vibrato with a Bigsby, but then when I'm using a different guitar, the vibrato is all coming from my hand. So I know that I can't play the same when I'm switching between wildly different instruments because, yeah, the approach is just completely different. Like you have to play a 335 very differently to how you play a Les Paul because there's a different response to your attack with the hollow body.
And feeding back and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then each guitar also, you're going to use a different amount of gain. So from a Les Paul to a P90 loaded Les Paul.
Just full gain with me.
Yeah. Full fuzz approach.
Metal zone on 10.
Yeah, no, I changed the gain slightly from a humbucker to a P90 because I probably don't need as much gain with a P90 as I do with a humbucker. It's a different kind of crunch sound. So, yeah, definitely the guitar informs and evokes different performances, absolutely. But there is that common thread that runs through with the tone of your fingers because it does play a huge part. Like, I've had people play my rig and go, "Oh, it's really dark. It doesn't sound that dark when I'm listening to you play." And I'm like, "Oh, well, then it's not dark. It's just your hands are dark, you know?" So... yeah, definitely when you plug into other people's rigs, you don't hear it the same way as you hear it from them play. So I think there's an element of truth in both statements, really.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to agree with you guys for the most part. For me, I don't play heaps of different guitars, so a Strat, one of my two Strats is home base for me, and that's where I feel most comfortable. So if I pick up another guitar like my Keegan, the response is totally different because the pickups are a bit different. So there's the tonal response, which I think informs the way you play. If stuff is sustaining differently, like the Telecaster bridge pickup has got this really interesting sort of mid-range, little bit of an emphasis, which is interesting for me. So that changes things up a bit. And then there's the physicality of the instrument. So again, playing Strat styles for so long, even when I like bend a string, the way I'll push the guitar body, and the way I'll respond to the shape of the guitar. I'll often lift a shoulder and I'm pushing the body into somehow with my right arm even. All that stuff, you can't do that exactly the same on a different shape guitar. So yeah, the physicality is very different as well. So yeah, I think they all bring out different things, but of course you're still going to play your same stuff. But I think your vocabulary it's still your vocabulary, but you'll just be maybe gently nudged in different sort of ways. So, which can be really cool. So when I say a Strat is my home base, picking up a different guitar is lots of fun for me, because I'm just considering the instrument perhaps less instinctively in a way, which I don't think is a bad thing. I'm just thinking about things a little bit differently, perhaps.
Cool.
So the answer is get lots of guitars. I think it's
exactly.
still okay to get lots of guitars.
More is more better.
More is more. All right. Cool. Well, thanks, Gabor. This was a cool idea for a show. There's so much signature stuff. I think.
There's a ton of I had heaps more stuff written down as well. But
yeah, I had Damasio pickups. I thought they do some really great signature stuff too.
Totally. And where does it end? Like picks, strings, straps. Like eventually it morphs from gear into merchandise, I guess.
Yeah. I had things like the St. Vincent Music Man, which is I think it's killer guitar.
Amazing.
Beautiful, yeah.
And things like even the Ibanez airplane flanger, Paul Gilbert.
Yeah, I almost brought that up when you were talking about weird Ibanez things. I sold mine, but I know someone who's got one I can borrow. Yeah.
True.
All right. Gabor, you're the Hugh Jackman of guitar. We can't even explain why you are anymore. Yeah.
You're a quadruple threat.
Quadruple threat. You're the Slashy. Where can people find you slashing away?
Well, if you want to find out more. That's a greatest show song, isn't it? If you want to find out more about me and want to listen to me even more, if you're not quite sick of me yet. More Gabor. Go and check out the super fun, awesome, happy time pedal show. All one word on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, of course, because we do YouTube videos. It's myself and my good friend Alex. And we review pedals. Sadly, not a Lyra because I don't have one. But if anyone out there has a Digitech Lyra they want to sell for normal amounts, let me know. Or a PV Wiggy.
PV Wiggy. Let's do it.
Or a Mr. Horsepower. Let me know. And my people and your people will talk. But yes, that's where you can find me, the super fun, awesome, happy time pedal show.
Excellent. You know, the Greatest Showman, I thought that was going to be an amp about the Fender amp of the same name. I was so disappointed.
Yeah, there was no amps at all in it.
And then
no Fender Showman.
There was a sequel too with the Dual Showman, so you know.
It's just getting worse and worse.
It was the biggest rip-off since Captain Corelli's mandolin.
Mr. Holland's opus.
Rob Rhodes, the hardest working man in show business. Well, where can people find out about you?
I'll be down by the Nutbush city limits, playing some old-time rock and roll, and while my guitar gently weeps. Road Trip Entertainment, so roadtripent.com. You can find all my gigs and living in the 70s stuff, and soon there'll be links to my clothing line by English Laundry Australia. No, John Lennon, the John Lennon collection, folks. Check it out.
Nice. That's legit. Rob is endorsed, which is super cool. Super cool.
La-di-da.
Endorsed, I'd say partnership. But now my face is all over their Instagram page, which is, I'm very lucky and honoured to be in partnership with them. Thank you.
That's great. That's great, man. That's awesome. All right. Hey, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Guitar Speak podcast. Huge thanks to Fretboard Biology as well for sponsoring the show. They've been doing so for quite a while now. Love those guys, so thank you. And massive thanks to Gabor and Rob. Guys, thanks for hanging out. It's been a great guitar hang once again.
It's been fun.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Look forward to doing it again. And every episode around this time, we like to reflect very carefully on the wise words that Michael Schenker told me way back in episode number 150. And the advice is...
Keep rocking. Keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking, indeed. All right, I'll catch you next time. Bye now.
Bye.